Thank you. Om Jnanatirmirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupakada Mayam Dadati Swabharantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Padakamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavamscha Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatam Nitantam Sajivam Vadvaitam Sabadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vijangscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Kanta Namostate Saptakam Shanagaurangi Radhe Brindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Suti Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakapachubhascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasari Gaura Bhakta Brinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naramacheva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudidayet Nasta Preshu Badreshu Nityam Bhagavat Shevaya Bhagavad Utama Shloke Mukti Bhavati Naistiki. Today, Thursday, June 19th, 2025, Juneteenth, which is a federal holiday. It's celebrated as the day in which, at the end of the Civil War, the federal soldiers reached Galveston and told the slaves they were free. So I've heard from unauthorized persons. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, The Creation of the Fourth Order, Chapter 28. Paranjana becomes a woman in the next life. Somewhat of a long chapter. After today, there'll be 2 more verses. And this is text 62. Aham bhavan chanyastvam Tvamevaham vichakshvabho Napalpasyanti kavayash Chidram jatu managapi Aham bhavan chanyastvam Tvamevaham vichakshvabho Nanaupasanti kavayash Chidram jatu managapi Aham bhavan chanyastvam Tvam evaham vichakshvabho Nanaupasanti kavayash Chidram jatu managapi Aham bhavana chanyastvam Tvamevaham vichakshvabho Nanaupasanti kavayash Aham bhavana chanyastvam Tvamevaham vichakshvabho Nanaupasanti kavayash Chidram jatu managapi. Aham bhavana chanyastvam Tvamevaham vichakshvabho Nanaupasanti kavayash Chidram jatu managapi. All right. Word for word, please repeat. Aham, I. Bhavan, you. Na, not. Cha, also. Anya, different. Tvam, you. Tvam, you. Eva, certainly. Aham, as I am. Vichakshva, just observe. Ho, my dear friend. Na, not. Now, of us. Pasyanti, do observe. Kavaya, learned scholars. Chidram, faulty differentiation. Dhatu, at any time. Manat, in a small degree. Api, even. Translation. My dear friend, I, the super soul, and you, the individual soul, are not different in quality, for we are both spiritual. In fact, my dear friend, you are qualitatively not different from me in your constitutional position. Just try to consider this subject. Those who are actually advanced scholars who are in knowledge do not find any qualitative difference between you and me. Please repeat. My dear friend, I, the super soul, and you, the individual soul, are not different in quality, for we are both spiritual. In fact, my dear friend, you are qualitatively not different from me. In your constitutional position. Just try to consider this subject. Those who are actually advanced scholars, who are in knowledge, do not find any qualitative difference between you and me. Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhu. Both the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the living entity are qualitatively one. There is no factual difference between the two. The Mayavadi philosophers are again and again defeated by the illusory energy because they think there is no separation between the super soul and the individual soul, or that there is no super soul. They are also misled in thinking that everything is the super soul. However, those who are Kavayaha, learned scholars, actually know the facts. They do not commit such mistakes. They know that God and the individual soul are one in quality, but that the individual soul falls under the clutches of Maya, whereas the super soul, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the controller of Maya. Maya is the creation of the Supreme Lord, Maya Shrishta. Therefore, the Supreme Lord is the controller of Maya. Although one in quality with the Supreme Lord, the individual soul is under the control of Maya. Mayavadi philosophers cannot distinguish between the controller and the controlled. Aham bhavan nachanyastvam tvam evaham vichakshvabho. And now, pasanti kavayash chidram jatu managapi. My dear friend, I, the super soul, and you, the individual soul, are not different in quality, for we are both spiritual. In fact, my dear friend, you are qualitatively not different from me in your constitutional position. Just try to consider this subject. Those who are actually advanced scholars who are in knowledge do not find any qualitative difference between you and me. Mukum karoti bachalam hangum lagayate girin jadkripa dhamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam. It is inevitable that those who do not have a proper spiritual master, a Vaishnava guru, will be misled by the illusory energy. And even though they may be austere and renounced and learned Vedic scholars, they will not come to the right conclusion that they are the servants of the Supreme. Rather, they think, and this is due to Maya's potency. We all know about how powerful, how potent Maya is. We can understand Maya's potency just by examining ourselves and how she bamboozles us constantly and bewilders us. And were it not for the power and the potency of a superior Vaishnava guru, specifically Srila Prabhupada, then we would be hopelessly lost and bewildered. And so there are those who want to speculate to understand God, but that speculative process is imperfect and it is limited, even within the context of Vedic study. Vedesha durlabam adurlabam atma bhakto. That what is not achievable through Vedic study and speculation, Vedesha durlabam, it is practically impossible just by that method alone to understand the real truth and act in one's constitutional position. Vedesha durlabam. However, adurlabam is actually very easy if one follows the path of bhakti as given by the acharyas. Adurlabam atma bhakto, by becoming a devotee of the Supreme Lord and surrendering in that way. And of all the speculators and Mayavadis, the supreme would be Shankaracharya. Although he is Lord Shiva himself, what do we know about Lord Shiva? Vaishnavanam Yata Shambhu. He's the greatest of all the devotees, the topmost devotee. So why would Lord Shiva come in the form of Shankaracharya and then preach Mayavadi philosophy? Which is fine with the Shaivites. That's all right. That's cool. He's Lord Shiva. He knows what he's doing. But he's actually deputed by the Lord to come and preach this Mayavadi philosophy. Mayavadam asach chastram. Asach chastram means bogus scriptures. Asach chastram. Asat shastra. Prachchanam bauddham uchate. It's covered Buddhism. And what is Buddhism? It's atheism. It's a type of atheism. Although it's clothed in a certain type of piety, meditation, austerity, and it is actually derivative of the Vedic culture. Still, it is a type of atheism. So, Mayavadam achachastram prachchanam bodham uchate. Prachchanam bodham, covered Buddhism, uchate, that is called. Mayava vihitam hitam kalau brahmana murtina. And Shankaracharya is telling, Mayava vihitam devi, he's talking to Parvati, my dear goddess, Mayava vihitam hitam. I'm doing this deliberately, kalau brahmana murtino. In the Kali Yuga, I come in the form of a Brahmana, Shankaracharya, and preach this Mayavadi philosophy. And it's an interesting and esoteric history how with the advent of Lord Buddha, people were led away from the principles of the Vedas because at that time they were misusing the Vedas. In the name of the Vedas, they were killing animals, performing unnecessary sacrifices to kill animals. And Lord Buddha was like, okay, enough of that. No more Vedas, just follow me. So that became very popular, especially with the patronage of the Emperor Ashoka. Buddhism was spread all over India and beyond the borders of India, to Tibet and China and all over Southeast Asia, Vietnam, Thailand, Kampuchea, all these various places, Burma. And that was the influence of Lord Buddha. So he rejected the Vedas. But then the time came to restore the authority of the Vedas. And that was done by Shankaracharya. But he did it in a tricky way. is that he preached Mayavadi philosophy, which Prachanam Bodha Muchate is a type of covered Buddhism, so it appealed to the Buddhists. Oh, the Shankaracharya is preaching this philosophy, but it's like our philosophy, kind of. There's no God. Actually, it's even more attractive than Buddhism because now you're God. Oh, that's a bargain. For the price of a little Vedic study and austerity, and accepting the Vedic principles, you become God. What a bargain. I accept that. So Shankaracharya preached vigorously all over India and reestablished the Vedic authority, but with this deadly twist, this interpretation that I am he, and you are he, and you are me, and we are all together, this sort of Beatles cosmic philosophy that we are all one. And it is very attractive to the jivas on different levels. One, because it's very philosophical. Two, because ultimately one doesn't accept individual responsibility for one's situation or one's condition. But the fact is that we are responsible for being in Maya. It's a deliberate decision that we've made to rebel or reject the service of the Supreme Lord. And so therefore the Mayavadis, they find it very attractive that, no, you don't serve Krishna. You are Krishna. You become God. Like, all right, I'll take that. So because the living energy is bewildered, deluded by the material energy, then that's great. I can become God. Perfect. That's what I wanted to do all along. That's why I left the spiritual world. I want to become a competitor. And why is God a big enjoyer? And why is everyone worshiping him? Hey, what about me? Huh? Let me get some of that glory and bask in that glory. So inevitably, no matter how learned one is or what a great scholar and speculator, even of the Vedas that one becomes, Maya still has him under her grips, and therefore he thinks that now I've become God. And that is the ultimate conclusion for one who is not given the proper direction by Vaishnava Guru. It's inevitable, and it's always the case. Whether in the East or in the West. Even in the West, the speculators, even some of the scientists, they're attracted to this Mayavadi philosophy. Because now, yes, we are God. We were looking for that, and now we finally achieved it due to the mercy of Shankaracharya. Thank you, sir. Thank you for helping us in what one philosopher called the God project, that every living entity is trying to become the enjoyer. Even in the West, they recognize this. And they call it the God project. Everyone is engaged in their God project. The problem is there are so many projects, there are so many gods, and they're competing with one another to become God. It's a very difficult situation. And it's not easy to be God. Prabhupada gives the example of the householder, and he has his nice property, and within the property he has his family, and then all his possessions. And in traditional times, that would include one would have one's treasury there, one's gold and valuables, and then the wife would have all her valuable jewelry and things. And so he's praying to God, God, please protect everything I have, my family, from any type of thief. Meanwhile, there's the thief, and his occupation is to steal and plunder from those who have things, the householders. And he's praying to God also, my dear Lord, please let me find some loophole in the security that the householder has, so that I can stealthily enter and get his stuff. And so God is caught in the middle. One is praying to him for protection, another one is praying to him for an opportunity. What's God to do? Like I think Vishaka has written this book, or an article or something. What's a woman to do? What's a God to do? How does he satisfy? Because what is the business of God? He's fulfilling everyone's desires. So he has to fulfill the desire of the householder. He has to fulfill the desire of the thief. What a difficult position. But all contradictions are resolved in the inconceivable and unlimited potency of the Supreme Lord. So, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in response to what Shankaracharya has done by spreading this contaminated Mayavadi philosophy everywhere very successfully, he has reined it in and actually given the real answer to defeat that philosophy by establishing the real position of the living entity. Jivar Surupoi, Krishnera Nityadas, Krishnera Tatasta Shakti, Veda Veda Prakash, which ties into today's verse that Jivar Surupoi, everyone is constitutionally, all living entities are spirit souls. Krishnera Nityadas, they are eternally the servant of Krishna. They are not Krishna. And furthermore, Lord Chaitanya explains, Krishnera Tatashta Shakti, that the living beings are the marginal energy of Krishna, as explained in the Bhagavad Gita. But they're simultaneously one with and different. Veda Veda Prakash, from the Supreme Lord. And this is the penultimate conclusion of Vedic philosophy, the version of Lord Chaitanya. Achintya Veda Veda Tattva. That the real truth is understanding the simultaneous, inconceivable difference between the living entity and the Supreme Lord, which Srila Prabhupada, first of all, it's in the Sanskrit in the verse, and then Srila Prabhupada touches upon this. There is a oneness between the living entity and the Lord. They are spiritual. We are spiritual. Krishna is spiritual. So that's called qualitative oneness. We have the same type of quality because we are spiritual entities who have expanded from the Lord. But Krishna Tatashta Shakti, we are not the same because we are marginal. So this definition of marginal potency is that means always under the control of the supreme energetic source. So Krishna is known as, in the Vedic language, especially in Brahma Samhita, we find Shaktiman. There's the Shakti, the energy of God, which part of that energy consists of us, the conscious living entities. But then there is the controller or the possessor of that energy. So there's Shakti, then there's Shaktiman. So he's the controller, the possessor, the owner, Isya Vasyam Midam Sarvam, of all his potencies, of which we are one. So although there's a type of oneness, yes, we're spiritual energy, but there is a controller and owner of the spiritual energy who is distinct from the living entities. So although we have that spiritual quality, that sameness, that oneness of the Lord, there is a difference. And that difference is one of quantity. The Lord is very great, and we are very small. Our potency, our ability to expand ourselves energetically and through our consciousness, through our activities, is quite limited. But Krishna, the Shaktiman, he's the controller of the potency, and his potency is unlimited. Advaitam Achutam Anantam Anandarupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha. And then the second part of that verse, Vedeshu Durlabham Adurlabham Atma Bhakto. Also, there's one nice verse in the Brahma Samhita, amongst many others, which is, I'll call it up here in my analog database. Ekopyasada chayatam jagaranda kotim yachaktir asta jagaranda chaya yadanta andantadasta padamanu chayantarastam govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. He is an undifferentiated entity, as there is no distinction between potency and the possessor thereof. In his work of creation of millions of worlds, his potency remains inseparable. All the universes exist in him, and he is present in his fullness in every one of the atoms that are scattered throughout the universe at one and the same time. Such is the primeval Lord whom I adore. So we are spiritual living entities with some limited potency, but we are not undantarasta padamanu chayantarastam. We do not expand to exist within every atom of the universe, nor do we create millions of universes. And the Lord does all that as if it were nothing. It's not even difficult. It's not like a massive task in which we have to labor hard, like Hercules. You know, Hercules was a hybrid, half-breed son of Zeus and of a human mother. And so he had to perform all these tasks that were extremely difficult to do. And although he was very strong and very powerful, still he had to labor very hard, and so much suffering and setback and tragedy was there, both in the traditional tale and especially in the Hercules movies that used to play on Saturday afternoon when I was a kid, the Sword and Sandals movies on Saturday afternoons in the 1960s. Great movies, most of them Italian movies with very beautiful, scantily dressed women. And, Steve Reeves, Hercules, big muscles, and then well-oiled and very handsome, and all these soldiers and all these adventures, like the famous one, Hercules, they chained him up and he took the chains, which are wrapped around his wrists, and he wrapped the chains around the pillars, and then he pulls down the pillars of the palace or the temple of the wanton false gods. So he has to work so hard to achieve all that, and still he's not happy. He's always suffering, and there's people always after him. So that is not God. God is not like that. Millions of universes he creates just parasha shaktir vididhaiva shuyate swabhavaki jnana balakriyacha. He just wills it, and everything is automatically carried out. Parasha shaktir, by his various potencies and energies. They act automatically in sequence, according to his desires. Natasya karyam karanam cha vidyate. He doesn't have anything to do. He doesn't have to go into the office. He doesn't have to manage through great effort and anxiety. No, he's completely free from anything like that. Even though he's God, the controller and owner of everything. Everything is very easily under his control. And a principle is there for the devotee that is mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita, that things which are very easy to do can become very difficult if one forgets the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya. And for one who is remembering the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, things which appear to be very difficult or almost impossible become very easy. Amazing principle. And so many followers of Srila Prabhupada were empowered to do so many various wonderful things by that potency of remembering Lord Chaitanya and following the instructions of Prabhupada. then wonderful things were accomplished. It could not be accomplished otherwise. Certainly not by their own individual potencies of the doers. But no, Prabhupada is empowering them, Lord Chaitanya empowering them. So, don't think that you have become God because undone tara saparamanu chayantarastam. You have not entered into every atom. You do not know the heart of everyone. You're not the creator, the owner and Lord of the universe. No living being is. The Lord is. That is his position entirely. And in terms of understanding the Krishna Tatashta Shakti, Beda Beda Prakash, the simultaneous oneness and difference between with the Lord and his creation and his energies, the verse is given in Bhagavad Gita, which is the seed of Achintya Beda Beda Tattva. Maya tatamidam sarvam jagadav yakta murtina matstani sarvabhutani nachaham teshva vashtita. I am, Krishna says, the owner, the controller. These energies are coming from me. But at the same time, if you look in the cosmos, I am not there. I'm there, but I'm not there. This is the seed, according to the Acharyas, of Achintya Beda Beda philosophy. So it is not some new philosophy. It's the same thing Krishna is saying in Bhagavad Gita. It's been there all along. It just took Lord Chaitanya to remind everyone of this true understanding. So let's see. There's one verse that explains what it means to become self-realized. That's originally from the Narada Pancharatra, and it's also included in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu of Srila Rupa Goswami, 1.1.12. So it's the 12th verse of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And this verse is quoted in the Chaitanya Charitamrita by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu teaching Rupa Goswami in the 19th chapter of the Madhya Lila, which is the teachings of the Lord Rupa Goswami. Text number 170. And this is a very well-known verse. Sarvopadi vanirmuktam tattara paratvaina nirmalam rishikena rishikesha sevanim bhaktir uchate. That the results of engaging in service to the Lord, sevanim bhaktir uchate, what is called devotional service to Krishna, seva, bhakti, to Rishikesha, the Lord who is the master of the senses. And we are not the masters of the senses. We are the servants of the senses. But the Lord is the master of all senses, of everyone's senses. What happens? Sarvopadi vanir muktam. One becomes liberated. Vanir muktam. Sarva upadi, from all material designations. In other words, one begins to understand through the purification of bhakti, I am not this body, which is an upadi. This is a designation, a temporary designation. As a matter of fact, it is a very temporary designation. Just wait till old age hits you, if you haven't arrived there yet, or if you live long enough to get there. Sarva upadi, that's a big upadi, this body. It's a temporary designation. And Maya is so strong that we think, oh, I am the body. I am the senses. But we are not. It is a designation. So to think that I am this body is an illusion, and Maya. And Srila Prabhupada makes the point in his recordings of lectures on Bhagavad Gita, especially the first dozen or so verses of the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, that Arjuna his concept was in terms of his bodily identification. That I can't fight this war because these are my cousins, my friends, my guru, Dronacharya, grandfather Bhishma's on the other side. Come on, grandfather Bhishma, he's like the number one great personality in the whole dynasty. How can we try to kill Grandfather Bhishma, the greatest personality that ever lived? Great devotee, so smart, such a powerful intellect, such learned outlook. He knows everything about everything, and he's our superior. And then Dronacharya, our guru in military arts. You don't kill the guru. Although some Mayavadis, Prabhupada says they do that. When the Mayavadi guru is on his seat and he's in meditation, then they sneak up and they kill him, and then they take over the seat. Prabhupada didn't want his disciples to do that to him. You could say, well, something kind of like that happened, allegorically. But you cannot take over the guru's position, but you remain always the servant, a fool before the spiritual master. So Arjuna he was thinking in relation to his bodily existence and the existence of the other bodies, of the other personalities involved in this whole conflict. So how could he do it? He said, even if I win an unrivaled kingdom like the demigods in heaven, what will be the value of that? Because all the people that I would want to have that kingdom for, everything that I am living for, everyone that I love dearly, would be gone, would be killed by me. Of spoils tainted by blood. How can there be any happiness and enjoyment in such a proposition? And beside that, there'd be so many bad things would happen. The women of all the fallen warriors become unprotected, and then Varnashankara Vijayate, there would be unwanted population, the degradation of the family values. And he's making this whole argument in terms of material existence. And then Krishna tells him, Asochanavasochastum, Pragyam Vadang Chabasase, Gatasu Nagatasu Cha, Nano Sochanti Pandidaha. You don't know what you're talking about. You're acting like you were very learned and very cultured and having the best interest of everyone at heart. But Nano Sochanti Panditaha. You're speaking like you're a learned word, but you're a fool because you're acting on the material platform. So Prabhupada says, because Arjuna surrendered to Krishna, he said, I'm bewildered now as what to do. I can't fight this war. And I don't know what is my duty anymore. Everything has become like chaotic in my mind. I just can't understand what's going on. So now he says, Jadimam Tvam Prapanam. I'm submitting myself as your disciple. I'm surrendering. Prapanam means surrender. I'm surrendering to you. Please instruct me. So that's the first thing Krishna says. Is you're talking like you know what's going on, but you're actually a fool. So that is the duty of the spiritual master, to chastise the disciple when he's not understanding things as they are. And Prabhupada said, we read that thing the other morning, even this morning, Prabhupada said, yes, you should always remain a rascal. One devotee said, oh, Prabhupada, I'm such a rascal. Prabhupada said, yes, you should always remain a rascal. Like, what did Prabhupada say? I should remain a rascal? What's up with that? He said, Lord Chaitanya was called a fool by his spiritual master. He's God, he's Krishna, he's no fool. But because the spiritual master's duty is to instruct the disciple, therefore he chastised him. He said, Murka, the guru called me a fool, and therefore he told me, you're not qualified to study Vedanta, although you think you're a learned scholar. You just chant the holy names. So this is the story Lord Chaitanya told to the Mayavadi sannyasis in Benares. When they asked him, why are you just chanting the holy names? He said, my guru found me unfit to study Vedanta philosophy. Therefore, he told me just to chant the holy name. And they were all perplexed. Why is he saying like that? Because they looked at him, and he was exhibiting his effulgence. They're like, wow, Look at this. Who do you see like, who have you ever seen like that before? And they were saying to him, my dear sir, you're like Narayan himself, which is, the Mayavadis. I'm Narayan, you're Narayan, we're all Narayan. But this Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's really Narayan. he's glowing, he's effulgent. We've never seen anything like this. We've never seen anyone like that. Like that cop in New York City in 1976. Prabhupada came to New York City for the first New York City Ratha Yatra. And one of the New York City cops, somehow or other, he looked at Prabhupada, and although not everyone could always see that, he saw Prabhupada's effulgence, and he nudged one of the devotees and he said, your leader, that man, he's glowing. And he was astonished because you ever been to New York? People don't exactly glow in New York City. It's a pretty rough place. Everybody. Unless they stick their finger in a light socket. But, it's a very passionate and ignorant place. Not much sattva gun, and no one is glowing. And everyone is a rather, like Gotham City type of place, dark and dangerous, and everyone's hearts filled with lust, anger, and greed. These are the dystopian depictions of such a place. And anyone who's ever spent any time in New York City will agree, yes. But that cop saw Prabhupada's effulgence and he was astounded. That how can this be? Such is the potency of a pure devotee, a pure devotional service, of one who's connected to Krishna, that he exhibits. What is that? Yashastra Bhakti Bhagavati Kinchana. Sarvarganas Tatra Samasate. One develops the Sarvarganas, all the good qualities. Tatra Samasate Suraha, that are present in the suras, in the demigods. So that is some of the thoughts that occurred to me when reading this verse in purport, and I'd like to end with a little story of an experience, something that happened to me in my life that at the time I didn't realize it later became a significant thing. When I was about 17, two of my friends, Mike and Larry, had concocted this scheme to smuggle some pot across the border from Mexico into Texas, where we live, about 500 miles from our house. And so Mike, he spoke Spanish and he spent a lot of time in Mexico, and he knew everything about Mexico. He was a Mexico Baba. Like some devotees are India Babas, they know everything about India. Like Dinabandhu, he knows all the pastimes, all the leelas, all the places, all the words in Hindi. He knows everything. So Mike knew everything about Mexico. So Larry borrowed a Volkswagen camper from a friend who had no idea why he was borrowing it. And the idea was that he was going to go over the border with the Volkswagen camper and then meet Mike there, and Mike was going to bring the contraband, and they were going to hide it inside the camper, because the camper has like a sink and a stove, and it has all this complicated stuff there, and it's a good place you can hide stuff like in the pipes, and they had this whole scheme. So, and Mike was on the Mexico side with the contraband, and Larry was going to drive over, they're going to put the stuff in and then drive back. So I went along for the ride, and when we got there, okay, we're going to cross the border. And I said, okay, let me out right here. This is in Laredo, Texas. I'll wait in the little park right here by the border. You guys do take care of everything. And then when you come back, pick me up. So after about 5 hours in the park, I realized they weren't coming back. And here I am, 17 years old. I got no money. The only thing I got on me is like my driver's license. That's it. And what do? I mean, I'm 500 miles from home. I didn't even have anything to eat. I didn't have any lunch or anything. Like, what's going on here? This is, teenage adventure. So I get out. I make my way to the freeway, stick out my thumb on the freeway. This pickup truck pulls up, and there's Larry and Mike in the back of the truck. Hey, get in. The guy said, what happened? I said, well, we got busted. Well, what happened? Well, Larry had neglected to clean out the van he borrowed from somebody. It was full of all kinds of dope and drugs, and he didn't clean it out first. So there was all kind of stuff laying around there. He didn't even look or check it, And so they got them both, and they arrested him, and then they let him out after booking him in. And then they just so happened to meet him on the freeway, and then we went home. And I was like, Larry, why didn't you clean out the car first and make sure that everything was clean? Well, I didn't think of that, Then later on, Mike and I got initiated together in New York City, in the 55th Street. We took first initiation together. It was amazing. And Larry, he also took initiation later on. So he became Lalita Kumdas. So this interesting adventure, we're foolish boys thrown together. And then when I was introduced to Krishna consciousness, these are guys in the neighborhood. Then so many devotees came out of that little pocket of friends. We used to go to the Sunday, we used to live 50 miles from the temple. We'd drive every Sunday, just to have a car that would go 50 miles. For us, that was a big accomplishment. And I had an old Volkswagen Beetle that, ran half the time. And when I became a devotee, it wasn't running, and I never saw it again. So it was interesting from those misadventures to becoming, God brothers, initiated devotees, and practicing, and they're both still practicing devotees after so many decades. And it's a very fascinating and interesting adventure in Krishna consciousness that who could have predicted that these three long-haired, foolish boys, teenagers, would all set their feet on the path of Vaishnavism by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and Lord Chaitanya in spreading Krishna consciousness all over the world. All right, so we'll stop here. Questions, comments, realizations?
What is relaxation? Common question, relaxation. When you're asking comments, questions, relaxation, what do you mean by relaxation?
A realization means something you understand about Krishna consciousness in relation to the philosophical presentation that was just been given.
Like reflection?
Yeah. Or application, understanding. Would you like to add anything, Naikatma Prabhu? Our friend Naikatma Prabhu, who I first met here in Tucson, as a matter of fact, in the 1990s when he was living here with his wife and daughter. And yes, Pavitra.
Just a little comment. When I was on Sankirtan and the DMVs, some days I was in Maya, I was always in Maya, but, I tried to enliven myself, and I remembered the conversation between Krishna and Arjuna, and I'd say, Krishna, I cannot fight, and I put my bow down, and then I'd think about it for a while, what Krishna was saying.
What, the book bag?
I put my book bag down in the car. I'd say, Krishna, I cannot fight, and I'd, be moaning and groaning, and then I'd remember what Krishna said in the Bhagavad Gita, and Krishna said, give up such petty weakness of heart, and arise, O chastiser of the enemy. And I'd say, yeah, and I'd put my book bag on, and I'd go out like Arjuna, try to carry on the mood, But anyway.
There's a philosophical understanding that gives us strength. Slash, the Bhagavatam says, slash the ignorance within the heart, the hard cords, the hard knots of ignorance that are within your heart, slash them with the weapon of knowledge. So taking shelter, studying Krishna's instructions in the Gita and taking shelter, we can develop the yatantascha dridhavataha, the firm determination to carry on our service to Krishna and not give it up. That's what Bhaktisiddhanta's parting words when he left this world, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He said, never give up your service to the Godhead. And of course, the service would have been all the preaching and all the activities that were given to those disciples by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. Never give up your service and always chant the holy names and keep the association of Vaishnavas. So those are like his parting instructions. Famous last words to remember to live one's life by. So yes, arise and fight, O chastiser of your sentimental weakness and petty weakness of heart, which Arjuna didn't actually really have, but it was an arrangement by Krishna to exhibit that. Krishna put him into Maya so that he would have the occasion to revive his Krishna consciousness and speak the Bhagavad Gita for the benefit of the entire human society. All right, so we'll stop here. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.